I remember sitting with my mum and my partner at the time, Michelle, saying to my mum, when the baby comes, we're going to stop using.
Welcome to the Recovery Valve Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Kennedy. Today's episode is brought to you by Kendrick Pain and Body, Roof Savers, Game Changer, and a special thank you to all of our other supporters of the Recovery Valve Podcast. I've looked at your social media. I found you on TikTok, which, how old are you?
49.
49. Who does your social media?
Yeah, everything. I do everything, mate.
You do it all?
Yeah, I do everything. I do have this absolute legend helper, Katie, up in Queensland. But I make all my content. She just helps me spread out some of the Sober Squad stuff. I've got a paid Sober Squad. Did you see that one?
I love your TikTok account is hilarious.
Oh, thanks, mate. Yeah, look, mate, I'm a creator. I love sharing stories. And as you just mentioned, like the reach is far beyond anything we could have ever believed. You know, like people are messaging me saying, "Danny, I'm 6 days clean," or "Danny, I'm 12 years clean." You know, like your content's helping. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. You know.
Yeah.
So.
When you get a call like Danny, like what's some of the calls like that you get? Are they reaching out because they want you to help them take the next step and getting clean, or they just want you to know that you're helping them because of your content?
That's a great. So Eric, 99% of the calls or messages are people begging for help. You know. Yeah. And then there's 1%, which is a beautiful place to get this message because it takes so much pressure off you. But it's someone saying, "Thank you, you've been so helpful." But mostly it's people, begging for help. "Danny, help me." And like as you know, all I do is share my stories. Like I can send you a message. I use the audio feature on every single message I get as well, and I send them back some love and hope, basically. But I'm not here really to hold your hand and take you through. I'm here to share my stories. That's how I help people, by just telling the truth, basically. What worked for me.
Right. So you're not like trying to get them into a recovery center or telling them this is your next step. You're just sharing your story, what you went through.
Sorry, no, Eric, I absolutely do. What I don't do is do one-on-one coaching much. That's all I'm saying.
I got you.
Look, I do a lot of things, I guess, as you can imagine, right? I don't have time to do a lot of one-on-one stuff, so I do group therapy. I run workshops 3 days a week where we call them our life skill development workshops. Where I teach a range of subjects. I've got about 30 different topics that I teach, from forgiveness to connection, solutions, budgeting, anxiety, life skills, community therapy, grief and loss. So I run these workshops, and basically all I really do, brother, is I just give people a safe place to come together in a small community, feel validated, walk away feeling like they've been heard, and learn one tool for the day that they can take out there and put to use, And you do that for 12 months with me, and you've got a pretty good arsenal, a tool belt that can get you through anything.
Just another tool in the toolbox.
That's it, yeah.
I love it. Hey, tell me, before you got to where you're coaching people or working with people and spending this time with them or answering all their social media, what was addiction like? What was your addiction like?
Yeah, I was a heroin addict for 17 years. I was an extreme heroin addict. I know we all have a story, of course, but I was definitely the guy who had no regard for my life. I would use dirty needles in the back of flats in Cabramatta, which is where our big heroin was rife. Cabramatta is a suburb here in Sydney where all the heroin started coming in from, back in the day in the 90s when it was real, or in the 80s, late 80s and 90s. So, I was a junkie in every aspect of the word. And I don't try and use that word. I rarely say that, but I was definitely like, I would steal from anybody. I would I had the obsession and compulsion to get high and change the way I feel constantly,
Yeah.
Yeah. So it it lasted for a long time, mate. I hurt a lot of people. I died many times from overdoses, like near-death experiences. I've had broken ribs from the paramedics giving me CPR. I've fallen out of third-story windows of a building trying to go and get on. I've had motorbike accidents, cut my Achilles tendon in half, sprung up my leg. So, yeah, I just used to really go for it, Eric.
Go hard for it, too.
Yeah.
I watched. I was watching some of your TikTok, and you did an interview with a current affair, I guess. And let me say this real quick, Danny. You are our first international guest. Woo. So thank you for representing Australia and coming on the Recovery Vow podcast.
Flag. Yeah, man.
I love it. But yeah, you did an interview with a current affair, and one of the things that stuck out was you said you used to use. And you knew that you would overdose, so you would be close to a place where they could find you.
Yeah.
Is that real?
How clever was I?
Yeah. So you knew that you were going to overdose, or you were going to go as hard as you could.
Eric, let's talk about that. I haven't really spoken in depth about that. But yeah. So I would see. You'd get on and you'd see what you got, right? So maybe I've got a $200 deal, right? And you know what the size of it, you don't know the strength of it, right? And so you have it, and you just know immediately once I've had it, like I could tell by the taste, the feeling, what's going to happen basically, and I would know if it was too strong. And what I would do is I'd walk somewhere quickly. I'd get to a place where I'd be found, and on probably 3 or 4 occasions, I literally walked out of a public toilet or out of a flat or somewhere where somebody would find me, and luckily somebody would find me and call the ambulance, and otherwise I'd be dead, mate.
I've never heard anybody say that. Like you could taste, you almost like taste the overdose was coming because of the strength of the heroin.
Yeah, you could literally taste the way it was going to affect me, and of course that initial feeling too, but yeah, I think I could tell by the taste if I was going to overdose. Yeah.
So every time you did heroin, you were shooting up, Danny?
Yeah, shooting up. Yep.
Yeah. Do you remember the first time you put a needle in your arm?
I was sitting in a dingy little flat in Cabramatta. No furniture. The drug dealer, his name was Wok. He was a Vietnamese man. I later went on to do a couple of years jail with that same drug dealer. But he's sitting in the flat, right? And Vietnamese, they squat, all right? They sit on their feet. That's how they'd all do that. I just remember he'd be there and he was mixing up in the spoon and basically put the tourniquet around my arm. I remember I felt scared, but also it was almost like envious because my mate, who had just had a shot by him, had already gone. So I was sort of like, all right, it's my turn. And mate, that day, I remember clearly, it was the day my life changed forever. Up until that time, I'd been spotting and smoking, chasing the dragon on heroin, but nothing can compare to that day. I chased that same feeling for the next 17 years. Eric.
17 years.
Yeah.
How much jail time did you do? Like was
6 or 7 years, maybe 7 years. Yeah. It didn't take long. I was locked up. Probably within a month after having that first shot.
What drove you to get locked up so quick? I mean, because you know that you're addicted to the heroin, but I mean, how radical did things happen? Did they happen so quick after a couple of weeks? So you had to have it the next day. Like, how addictive was it from day one?
Okay, so I never missed a day for the next 17 years.
Oh, you did heroin every day.
From that first shot, I never missed a day. Now, of course, there were times where I was locked up and I couldn't get on, but if I had the means or the capacity, there was not a day I missed. And don't get me wrong, I was stoned 90% of my time in jail as well. So yeah, I never missed a day. That's how extreme it was. It was from having a shot of heroin to never missing a day for 17 years.
And I remember you told a lady that you had spent probably $1 million because you said like $200 a day.
Yeah. Yeah, and look, that's on a real, yeah. So yeah, definitely $1 million on drugs. And look, I think I did say $200 a day in that interview, but you know, some days you'd be spending $1,000 on drug related activities anyway. You know.
Did you ever do anything else like coke or crack?
Everything.
You did everything.
I did everything, but heroin was the one that I'd always come back to. You know. So for example, right. Yeah. We got Cabramatta, that's where all our heroin come through, all the good stuff. King's Cross, on the other hand, was where all the cocaine was, right? This is in my life. I know there might be other people out there experienced it differently, but for me, Cabramatta was where the heroin was. King's Cross is where the cocaine was. So what would happen is if I had a good day, if I had plenty of cash, it'd be visiting Cabramatta first, get on the heroin, bring some to take to King's Cross, go up the cross, get on the coke, binge on the coke for a couple of hours, and then on the way back home, stop by a Cabramatta again because you'd never have enough. Drugs would always run out.
Right.
You couldn't. I'd always use them till they were gone, and then and what we'd have is this thing called a speedball. So that was the ultimate thing in King's Cross. You'd mix the heroin and the cocaine together, and you'd have what they call a speedball. You know, speedballs. Yeah.
I never did a speedball. I did a lot of crack. I did a lot of cocaine, but I never did a speedball. And I was never, man, it scared me. You know, it just scared me. I never did. I don't think I ever did heroin. It could have been laced a couple of times. I don't know.
Yeah, wow.
My drug of choice wasn't heroin though. Tell me.
Thank God it scared you, Eric. Yeah. And just by the way, I don't know if you know this, but we don't have crack here. Like you can make crack. I can make it. I know how to make it, but it takes a lot of freaking cocaine to make a good batch of crack.
Yeah.
You know? So we didn't have – our drugs is so different here to America. Like when I say so different, they're like 15 times more expensive here. Mm-hmm. And
really?
Yeah, mate. Yes, really. Like I believe so. Like it's been a long time for me.
Me too.
But yeah, how long you sober for? How long you been around?
September 2010.
Oh wow!
Yep.
Oh,
and
what date?
You're September 2009, right?
Yes.
And you were September 2nd?
15. What's your date?
27th.
Oh, congratulations!
Congrats, man.
Eric, how good is life, eh?
Freaking amazing! I mean, look at us. Look at us.
Yeah, just chilling.
Just two bald guys hanging out on a podcast all the way on the other side of the world.
If I didn't have such big glasses, I'd wear a hat. But I can't wear a hat, man, because my glasses always get in the way. Well, I like the hat. I want to wear a hat.
I wore the hat today because I forgot to shave my head. See, so
look,
I wore the hat.
You know that I've got the shaver on standby every day, mate.
How often do you use it?
Every day, mate.
Every day. I need to get one of those.
This is the best, bro. This is called a pit bull. This thing is an absolute. This is the gold, mate. This does your head smooth in like 30 seconds.
I need to get one. Is it on TikTok Shop?
Shaver Shop. We got a shop called the Shaver Shop. And Pitbull. You know Pitbull, the singer too. I often get told I look like Pitbull, so it's like
Oh, okay, I get it. Yeah.
You'd probably get that too.
Yeah, no, I don't get. I look like Pitbull. Who am I told I look like? I don't know. I can't remember. So,
Eric, I love these kind of conversations. You know, especially it makes me see what just happened. Then was to know that you got sober like a year and a little bit after me. Man, it's kind of like I just seen your journey a little bit, and if it's anything like mine, it makes me really happy because. Not many people get to experience this, you know? They really don't, man. Not many people.
No, they don't. I mean, and Danny, I mean, let's be honest. You tried what? You tried 14 times?
49 times, yeah.
What do you think was the reason? What did you not do to make you go back so many times?
Oh, I wasn't serious, you know?
Right.
It's simple as that. Like, I did it for everybody else, you know.
That's the key right there. Is you did it for everybody else. You never did it for Danny.
I think it's the key. Yeah, I think you're right, Eric. But I also just I couldn't commit because like what the idea of getting clean and sober, it's a lovely idea, you know, but I don't know if you remember, but it was also kind of, do I really want that? Like, do I really want to be like some Hare Krishna, sorry to use, but you know, do I really want to be some Saint Daniel who's just going around? And that's what I thought was going to happen, but I'm not no saint. You know, What was that? What were you just doing there?
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to be a square. I mean, I thought about the same thing. I have built this, but it wasn't like a good life. I mean, it wasn't glamorous. I mean, I wasn't a glamorous drug addict, you know?
No, but at least we didn't have to experience feelings. When I got clean and sober, I remember the first day, I was a member of the NA fellowship, you know?
Yep.
The 12-step fellowship. I remember the first day I got up and I spoke at a meeting, right? Now, previous to that, I was in rehab at the time too, and I was coming off methadone. I was on methadone for 13 years, right? So I had this security blanket. I was constantly stoned 24 hours a day for 13 years, right? I was on a big dose of methadone. I had this constant glow, and it was like my little security blanket. Well, when I got off that, and the first day I publicly got up in front of, say, 25, 30 people, shaking in my bones, that was the day I experienced. I never knew what anxiety was. I never knew what fear was. I never knew none of that. I experienced every feeling like all at once, you know. I hadn't had a feeling for 17 years. The methadone, the heroin, the speed, the coke, it all just gave me this delusional thinking of the world, you know.
I do. It's funny that you say that. I don't remember ever having any kind of anxiety when I was using.
No. Well, people do, don't they? Because I think
maybe
about
I
this.
Maybe I didn't have it because that's the drugs was covering it up, or the alcohol.
Yeah, I think so. But bless it, like there is some people out there who have anxiety issues who are using substances and it still doesn't even work. But for me, yeah, man, I'd never had a feeling really. I didn't give a f***. I didn't care if I was hanging out in a jail cell. I didn't care if I was homeless under the bridge. What I say I didn't care is all I cared about was getting on again. So if I was hanging out in that dry cell, like some of the cells here, probably the same in America, but when you go in, if you've got a big habit and you're detoxing, especially if you're carrying on like a pork job, they chuck you in a dry cell. So it's a concrete bed. That was me all the time, by the way, right? They chuck me in dry cells. So concrete bed, no shoelaces so you couldn't hang yourself. Right. You'd be on this concrete bed, you'd be vomiting. But even then, bro, I'm scheming, how am I going to get on? You know, that's all I cared about.
Yeah.
So,
God, that sounds miserable, though.
Yeah, it was horrible.
I mean, detoxing on your own like that's miserable.
Yeah, it is.
Danny, were you married the whole time and had kids at this time?
Mate, bless my poor son. So my son was born on the 27th of June 2001. So in the middle of my addiction, you know, and you know, me and his mum. All right, listen to this. This is a shameful story, but not shameful, but it gives me like this weird feeling. I remember me and his mum sitting there having a conversation, let's say in 2000, the year 2000, 24 years ago. She's pregnant, right? I remember sitting with my mum and my partner at the time, Michelle, saying to my mum, when the baby comes, we're going to stop using it. You know? Like, bro, that feeling that I'm just getting, like talking about that right now, it's just so delusional, man. You know? And it's so sad to think that I couldn't stop using before that, and I didn't stop using after it, by the way. Let's just be clear. But this delusional thinking, because we're going to bring a child into this world, that would be enough to stop using drugs.
And the only responsibility that child has is to keep you sober. Is the definition you've already put on him before he was born.
And within 2 or 3 months, he was in stolen cars, in a high-speed police pursuit with me. And then, thank God, he got taken off me by a family member. And mate, on that note too, you know, like I'm still working on repairing that relationship. I've been sober 15 years now, and me and him, we speak regularly, but it's nothing like, you know, I was absent for the first half of his life. He visited me in jails, institutions.
Yeah.
I wasn't a dad in any way, shape, or form, mate.
Well, at least you're working on it, though.
Yeah, I'm working on it. Now, the little always borrowing my car. Like, I'm still paying through the teeth, mate. It's money here. Take your car there. But it's all right. It's all good, bro.
You're a good dad. You're a good dad.
Yeah. We're going to go to Bali in March. We're going to both go to Bali and get tattooed up in March. So.
I love it. So he's 25, 24 now. 23.
23, yeah.
Be 24 this year.
Yeah, thanks, bro.
Then you have the son. Right. You have a daughter.
And so, look, on the flip side of that, I've got a daughter, Balia, who has never known her dad. My daughter thinks of like some God, you know, like she sees all the people I help, like people. I run my group meetings, and she always comes in sticky beaks, and she wants to say hello, and everyone loves her. So she thinks I'm like some God who helps people from all over the world, you know, like it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And she's never experienced me, the carnage my son seen, you know. So
you know what's crazy, Danny, is I have a daughter that thinks the exact same thing because she's never seen me at my worst. She's seen me not be like the best, but she's never seen that side, like what my boys saw. My boys are old enough to know, and so I think it's important. Yeah. So do you do you think you'll tell her your whole story one day?
Bro, I've been really lucky to be on all the news channels here in Australia, right? She's seen every story. When she first seen a current affairs story, the one you seen, she came out to me, she said, "Daddy, did you escape from jail?" She said, like, that was actually a couple of years ago when so she was just old enough to understand, but so she knows it all already. Like, she doesn't know in depth, but
right.
She's seen the news stories, she's seen stuff, and I tried to shield her from that, but kids are just so clever, man. She can act like she didn't see it, but she knows, and then she knows, she understands, mate. She understands that Daddy helps people. That's what I do. You know?
I love it.
Yeah.
Tell me about your lowest low in addiction. What do you remember being the absolute like train wreck of a day?
Yeah, so there's two, okay, and we've kind of covered them already in a somewhat. It would be hanging out in heavy heroin withdrawals, homeless under the bridge in Woolloomooloo, which is just down the road from King's Cross. There's a nice bridge where all these homeless people live. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired, sad, miserable, in heavy withdrawals, just wanting to get on, and desperate to find my next fix. So stinking, haven't had a shower for 2 weeks, haven't brushed my teeth for 3 weeks, you know, haven't eaten for days, but all I cared about was where I was going to get my next hit.
Yeah.
And the other extreme to that would be hanging out in that dry cell in Darcy 1, which is the prison, the first reception prison cells, you know, vomiting myself, you know, like they're my rock bottoms, you know. Yeah. And look, I remember having a deck of cards one day, brother. Listen to this. I had a deck of cards in that dry cell once. That's one of the only things I was in the cell. And I said to myself, if I pull out, I think it was the King of Diamonds. I shuffled it, right? I said, if I pull out the King of Diamonds, I'm going to jump off this concrete bed and like land on my neck and just take my life. That's because I was in the horror of that. So I said, I'm shuffling these. If I pull out the King of Diamonds, this is my sign to jump head first and break my neck off the concrete bed. Shuffled it, pull out the card. It's a King of Diamonds, bro. And I'm like, I'm not off the bed. Like I couldn't do that. It wasn't until I got clean and in recovery that I really started having a lot more of those. You know, like that was the only time I ever really wanted to take my life in addiction, and I didn't want to do it. Like I put the card back in there. I can't jump on my neck.
Shuffle again.
Yeah, shuffle again. But yeah, I'll never forget that day either, mate. Crazy stuff.
I look at moments like that, Danny. I think those are like moments of clarity. You know, you drew the card, but it was like, you're really not going to do this. Here's your ticket out. If you want it, here's your ticket. You had a 1 in 52 chance. Here's your ticket. And you didn't take it. It was a moment of clarity.
Absolutely, Eric. And look, by the way, like that was pretty early in the piece too. Like I went on for years after that, you know. Like that turning point, like you said, why did I keep going back to relapsing? I didn't know. Like I didn't know. It's hard to explain, but we don't know when we're in addiction that there really is another life on offer, you know? Like we don't understand.
Yeah.
I didn't understand, I should say, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard there's a guy here in America from this. You ever heard of Jackass, the TV show? It's got this guy Steve-O. So Steve-O's in recovery now, and he made a point on one of his podcast episodes. He said, addiction is the only disease that you can treat and your life actually gets better. Like there's no other disease that you can treat where your life gets better. You maybe get healthy, but it's the only one where your life gets better. And I don't know a lot of people in recovery where they can say their life just completely sucks because they got clean and sober. I mean, look at you and I. Yeah. You know, there's nothing. I mean, we have life that we deal with, but you know, we talk about that in a 12-step room, but we know how to deal with it now, right? Where we're not going to go back out.
Eric, let me ask you. So, do you do 12-step fellowship stuff? Do you?
I did the 12 steps. I did the 12 steps. I walked through all 12 steps. Went to AA, you know, the anonymous meetings and all that. And I love it. I just needed the concept of a God bigger than I am to be my higher power. I couldn't get, like some of the rooms I was going into, they were like, you know, just find freedom and accepting the doorknob to be your higher power, or accepting your kid could be your high. And I just didn't want that, you know. And so I started going to a local church, and you know, I'm not like I'm not one of those crazy Christians where they you know, throwing the Bible and hitting you in the head with it. I'm not that kind of guy, you know, because I don't come from that kind of world. I'm still learning, you know, but you know, I'm not afraid to say that I got sober in a recovery center in Florida. I came back. I lived in a halfway house in South Carolina, and then moved to Georgia. Well, I was already kind of back and forth to Georgia, but when I came to Georgia, you know, I had to completely hit reset, like mentally, and I learned how to do that in treatment. And then, you know, I got divorced from my wife, and I got custody of my 2 sons, and so, you know, Cameron was 5 or 4, and Christian was 3. And I remember, like, we're about to do this. I'm taking half of everything. I did. I mean, we moved into an apartment and just kind of started over. You know, it wasn't great at first. It wasn't. But man, I'll be honest with you. I got invited to a local church, and that's just where I was able to be myself and find some kind of comfort, you know. I was able to get my kids plugged in a little bit, and we're still not perfect people, you know what I mean? But I'm not going to shy away from that part. But I try to be open, you know, so that when I have this podcast, you know, I don't want people thinking it's just a full-blown Christian podcast. I want them to know that I can have Danny Shannon on here from Australia that has this kind of story, and we can say whatever we want to say, you know. And dealing with this group XO Marriage out of Dallas, who published my book last year, which I want to talk about that in a minute, because I really want to hear about your digital time capsule. I really love that idea. Where did that come from?
Yeah, thanks, Eric. Before we just jump into that, can I just go back for 1 sec where I was going with that last question about your recovery? Yeah. Thank you for sharing that with me. This is my problem. This is why I'm not a huge success with my encapsulator yet. This is why the whole world doesn't know about it, because I'm too busy talking about recovery all the time, right? But just going back for a second, you mentioned that most people in recovery, you know, they've got a better life, yeah? But then, you know, and I love, who cares how we get clean, as long as you're happy. I think that's what's important. I do see a lot of people with multiple years up who maybe don't have some kind of program and are miserable still too. And I often wonder, like what is it that they're missing, you know? Like, I wish I could give them something, and I do think I know what they're missing. There's 5 things I often say, actually, that that really stand out to me. And I think if you're missing one of those things, I should tell you, right? So the 5 things, these is, number 1 is connection, connection with other human beings. An addict alone is in bad company. Get out of the house, you're at home with the killer, right? Number 1, get connected.
I love that.
Number 2 is find myself a mentor or a sponsor, somebody I can look up to, somebody who's been there, somebody can help guide me along the way, So find myself a mentor. Number 3 is definitely what kind of therapy are you doing, whether it's group therapy, whether it's one-on-one stuff. You can't do this without somebody else taking you through the process, I think, Number 4 is find myself a power greater than myself, a higher power, whatever it is, something that's loving and can restore me to sanity in some way. Number 5, the most important one, I believe, is what are you doing for mankind, Because if you're not giving back to somebody else, all you're doing is taking, and the universe doesn't work that way, The more I give, the more the universe provides, and I only keep what I have by giving it away. So those 5 things, man, I often see people who are struggling are missing probably 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 of those things. And if you're not doing all of them, in my opinion, you can't live a full, happy life.
Those are life. They sound like life maintenance steps.
They are. They're not recovery stuff. They're not fellowship stuff. They're just life stuff. And if you're not doing those 5 things, you're in trouble, I think,
right. No, I completely agree. Yeah, you're right. I mean, if you remove either one of those, I can see where you would be sad or not feel fulfilled. I get the reason that I do this nonprofit Recovery Vow. We have Recovery Vow is this brand, and we have this book that I wrote with Exo Marriage, and we have the podcast, and we have these classes. The reason I do this is because I'm doing the ultimate 12-step. I'm stepping out and helping somebody else. I mean, it keeps me sober every day, And
it's a powerful thing that you're doing, Eric, and I love it too. I've got a podcast called Kick the Shit. There it is. I've got the name is probably not the most appropriate because we do have a lot of Christians.
I love it.
But mate, all right, back to Encapsulator. So Encapsulator is a video journaling platform with questions that pop up on screen to guide you on a journey of personal development and discovery. I was sitting in my office. I was working in rehab. I worked in rehab for 10 years, Eric. In fact, I worked in the same rehab I got sober in back in 2009. I was sitting at my desk. I just celebrated 6 years sober. All right, I was full of gratitude. I felt incredible. I was reflecting on my journey, sitting on the opposite side of the desk where I was once a client, thinking, I wonder what I was thinking back then when I was sitting in that chair, What was I thinking? How was I feeling? So often I talk about those things in 12-step fellowship meetings, but I could never really connect with how it actually felt. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to record a video to my future self for my 10-year milestone, something I could look back on at the time. And at the time, that was a little bit ambitious because we learn in the 12-step fellowship, you got to keep it in today and all of that. But I think it's also very, very important to set goals. And I tell people to dream big all the time, Dream big, mate. So, mate, I did a little bit of research on some questions that you could answer when talking to your future self. And this was the key, bro. So doing that research gave me some guided prompt questions that would take me on a journey. I started the camera rolling, and the first question was, what is your name and what's today's date? And I said, I'm Danny, and it was the 16th of June 2016. And immediately I just noticed this beautiful sense, this weird, unique, therapeutic thing. This is me talking to my future self. I started talking about and answering questions about my mom, my dad, and I thought, oh my God, I hope they're okay. And then I thought, I hope my relationship with my son is better. I started crying. I got quite emotional throughout I was already sober a few years by this time. So I wasn't really able to go because I wanted to know what it would be like.
Those are
Anyway,
gratitude tears.
Yeah. As it happens, as I was recording that video too, I thought this would be an amazing tool to give to the clients coming through our service, because every single person come up to me and says, Danny, like, when is things going to get better? I haven't changed. Like, I can't do this anymore. But as a worker, I'd see huge change in people. And I'd be able to then say to, like, Johnny, go back and take a look at your video. You've changed heaps. And sure enough, Eric, over the next couple of years, I started recording every client that come into our service with their permission. I had a hard drive and I started documenting their journeys. I tailored those questions a little bit differently. And in 2017, I took a trip to America. I did 18 states in an RV from LA to New York, visiting 12-step fellowships the whole way along, bro. And I met all these incredible – I was in Austin, Texas. I didn't come to Dallas. But I met all these incredible entrepreneurs who taught me that, mate, what I've developed back home, my time capsule concept would be an amazing tool to be able to give to addicts or people on a journey of personal development from all over the world. And when I returned back from America, Encapsulator was born. So we provide video journal programs. We've got 30-plus programs with on-screen prompt questions designed to help you reflect on your present moment and capture your hopes, your dreams, your fears, and your future aspirations. Recording these videos helps you express yourself in a private, confidential space without any fear of judgment. When we verbalize our goals out loud, it keeps us accountable, motivated. I also think often a problem shared is a problem halved. So once we've said it out loud, we increase the chances and likelihood of us speaking to a professional down the track. Mate, that right there is the power of Encapsulator. It's available on iOS and Android and all the app stores, and that's basically it, mate.
So if this was day one for me, Danny, and I was in treatment and they had this app, or I came to you and I recorded this, I can't listen to it tomorrow, right? It kind of locks it away for a certain amount of time.
So, Eric, back in the day when it first started, it used to be you'd lock it for 5 years and it'd count down, but we've discovered over the years that people did want to reflect back on their videos. So you can have access to it. You can rewatch your videos these days.
Okay. But if I wanted to lock it away and make it like a memorable moment, can you lock it away for like a certain amount of time?
At the moment, no. But we're definitely, looks like we're heading back to that very soon, I think.
There's so many reasons I'm asking the questions. Here's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
You said you were sitting there at 6 years clean and you wanted to know how you could 12 step somebody ongoing forever. And that's how you came up with Encapsulate. Well, do you remember like when we went through treatment, the whole program was built around us doing these things that we have to do to stay sober, right? But there was nothing out there for our family or our spouse to help them walk with us through this. They just thought, hey, this person's going to go to treatment for 30 days or whatever, and then when they come back, they're supposed to be this brand new person. But it doesn't fix the road that they screwed up all the way to here. It didn't fix the 17 years of Danny, right? So definitely. I got with a group out of Dallas called XO Marriage, and I pitched the idea of writing this book. And it's written as a workbook, Danny. So like, think about people that you work with. Maybe they're married or thinking about getting married. Their spouse needs to know what it's like to walk through recovery, because there's like Al-Anon meetings and things like that. So long story short, I wrote this book. It's called Marriage After Addiction. Well, yeah. Take the 5 things that you wrote. They're in here.
Yeah, sure.
And it tells at the end of every chapter, there's questions for you and I to answer as the addict. And then there's questions for them to answer as the supporting spouse or family member, partner. And then there's questions for you to do together. And it's super, super easy. It's not like a pass or fail thing, right? But it's from changing your playground playmates play habits. That's one of the chapters. Why it's important that you guys work together to not hang out with that same crowd anymore. Letting laughter return to your marriage, because if you can't laugh about things, it keeps you from having hard conversations. Understanding what addiction is for the person in recovery. I mean, it's just, and it's not like some super hard book. It's super thin, but I have a lot of couples that are coming through, that are walking through this, because counselors are using this book for people they're working with, people in recovery, and their spouses are using it. We're getting a lot of traction with it. I would love for them to have access to your app with the book some kind of way. Like, I would like to have your app be on my website and say, hey, when you guys start this workbook together, I want you to record what day one was like. When you start chapter 1, I want you to record what this day felt like.
Wow.
And
Eric, look, I can go one step way better. Is we can literally build your program in the app. So that's where we've moved towards now. So you can have your own program in the app that you can give. So what the program would look like would be an introduction to what's it called? Sorry,
marriage. Can you see that?
Yeah, I can. Marriage after addiction. Okay, so you've got. Can I show you just quickly? Just because this would be. Can I show you what I mean? All right. Do you mind if I share something on my screen? Yeah, I can, eh? Okay, here we go. So, Eric, what you're seeing right now is our different programs, right? Can you see them on screen? Yeah. Okay, now, here's one, this is where I'm thinking marriage after addiction. This program right here, Recovery and Beyond, this is my program. This is how it looks, okay? You jump in and you've got a range of activities. What I'd like to show you actually is active programs. Let's go here. So this is, you've got an introduction to your program. So this might be you introducing them.
It looks just like me.
And then you've got all your activities, okay? I don't know how many activities or chapters you've got, but you'd have each one of these would be a different chapter. And then you start your program. And then each week, you would do an introduction to that chapter. Welcome back. Welcome to activity 2. Okay, and then they would answer questions on video. Here, boom, we build your program. So you could have your questions set out right here, and together as a couple or individually, they can jump on and start answering the questions. So the first question here is, how do you normally react in uncomfortable situations? Can you describe a time when being uncomfortable led to personal growth? When they're finished loading their videos, Eric, you just simply hit finish. It'll upload super quick. It's ready to go. Boom, save. And their progress bar moves along. They're down, moving towards their activities. And, yeah, there you go, mate. That's just a little
I love
we
that,
could
man.
literally build your program. Eric, how do I stop sharing? There we go. I would love to do that for you. And you would have your own Encapsulator program. It can be branded with your logo, your colors. It'll be Encapsulator is just to host the platform that hosts your program.
Yeah, we're currently working on some online classes and things. So I would like to continue the conversation and bring in the producers and Britt Jackson, who runs my admin desk, and absolutely do that. I would also like to introduce you to the team at Exo Marriage, so that we can see how this goes together. I think this is a bigger conversation.
That's so good, Eric.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. You made my day.
Yeah, and I didn't even know about Encapsulate till I was at the red light earlier, and I was like, let me just go listen a little bit about Danny, because I've looked at your TikTok, but I didn't go all the way back. And so I was like, oh, a current affair, let me watch this whole video. And I'm like, what is Encapsulate? I love the idea. I love the idea, because I wish I'd have done that on my night of recovery. We had to write the letters to our future selves and all that, but I have no idea where that's at.
Eric, there's one video. So I recorded that initial message, and I've turned that into a little 60-second powerful little clip. You have to watch it. It's basically the day. It's me in the future, just a couple of weeks ago, watching that first video. It's a powerful way to reflect on our journeys and measure our growth.
I love it.
And just by the way, Encapsulator, as I said, was born in America. Like it came literally from all the amazing entrepreneurs I met on their journeys of recovery, hustling, doing something. Because over here we get full hooked up with rehab. We don't have to pay. There is ones you have to pay for, but all that 49 attempts at rehab for me was all free. I never paid a cent, man. I just
really. It's $30,000 a month.
Yeah, so. I thought, and over there, all these entrepreneurs, I thought, maybe I can turn my concept into a tool that can help people. So today we've got this platform that doesn't have to be addiction related. It can be anyone who wants to record and document their journey.
I love it. Yeah, I want to talk about that partnership. I want to set up a meeting after this and really see where this goes. Would that be okay?
Yeah, please. Yeah, I'd love that. Mate, my dream is to get it into America, bro. So.
Well, I need you to go look up Exo Marriage when we get done, or after you go do your workout. It's Exo Marriage in Dallas, Texas. They're a huge media company for they're national. And so between them and the production team here, they're going to be working together a lot. I'm going national this month. So I have some pull. We can make some things happen. Bro. I really, really like that concept, though.
All right. Let's do it, Eric. That'd be incredible, bro.
I'd like to have you back on the podcast, Danny, and let's talk some more. And I just want to stay in touch with you. I know you said TikTok's the best. I use WhatsApp too, so if you want to chat on WhatsApp, we can do it there. Because that's free and cheap. We can text. But man, I just want to say this. I'm so proud of you.
Yeah, I'm
so proud of you.
I'm so proud of you too.
Man, you're doing amazing things over there.
Thanks,
you're doing
man.
amazing.
We are.
You're a good dad. You're a good husband. Hey, real quick, how is married life?
I'm not married, Eric.
You're not?
I'm single. Nah, look, there's one area, so I haven't.
We'll take this off.
I'm so good at everything in recovery except for relationships, right? I'm really good at telling people how to get through a breakup. I'm an expert at that. But yeah, I've, mate, to be honest. When I was 4 years clean, I was playing up a lot. I had in the early days, as you do, you're trying to fill the void. I said, maybe when I turn 5 years clean, I'll settle down, right? Then I got 5 years clean. I thought, you know what, maybe 10 years. So then I said to myself, 10 years, I'll settle down. Then I got to 10 years, Eric, and then Encapsulator started taking off. I don't have time for relationships, bro. I need to focus on business. So now I'm 15 years, and I'm thinking I better start doing something, So,
well, come over to America. We'll get you hooked up,
mate. That's actually I love American girls and Australian girls. My two favorite. So I'm looking for a green card. I'd love to move to America. Just joking. But,
Hey, man, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, and I really appreciate you sharing your story. I know that, I don't have hundreds of millions of followers, but the audience I do have, they're going to hear something in your story that I think they need to hear. Somebody's going to hear it right when they need to. So thank you so much for being vulnerable and transparent.
Yeah, mate, it's an absolute pleasure. I love just the chat's been really good, man. So,
I appreciate it.
It's been a nice discussion, bro.
This is the balance between having just good conversation and it not being an interview, like a question and answer thing. I hate that.
It wasn't like an interview at all. We were just having a chat.
Yeah. Well, man, you're a legend. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Remember to stay on for Charles. He's got to make sure everything uploads. But other than that, appreciate you. We'll talk again soon. Thanks for watching and listening to the Recovery About podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe and follow along on all of our social media platforms. A huge shout out to all of our sponsors. You can find a list of them in the show notes below or on the screen you're watching on our YouTube channel. We'll see you next week. Today's episode is brought to you by City of Refuge, Augusta Magazine, Burrow Elijah, Attorney at Law, Communigraphics, The Nonprofit Desk, Corbin Jones State Farm, Paradise Turf, Sally Kohler Photography, Atlas Health and Wellness, Dr. Rhonda Milner, Kendra Neal Studio, Augusta Dream Center, Newsom Electric, New Spring Church, Augusta Lawn and Turf, Candace Riddle Realty, Goldmec, Norval Fixture and Equipment, S&S Supplies, Belinda Thompson, Rhett Walker, Carpet Cleaning Pros of Augusta, Coleman Construction, Bagwell Insurance, Tree Guys with Ties, Barrow Walden, and a special thank you to all of our other supporters of the Recovery Valve podcast.